Hey everyone, it's a really interesting episode. This is Val.
It's a very special episode.
We'll Tracy is with me and Movies That Make Us, and we do not have Dad today. Tracy, this is the
Ah,
first time we have been left alone
I
with the
know.
podcast unsupervised. Does this
There
mean
could be
we get to say
shenanigans.
all the words? Can we say all the words? Like, how many words do I get to say today?
I'm going to give you three words.
Okay.
We got to remember because
Three.
Dad's watching, and Dad will check in
Is he
later.
watching?
Well,
Dang
he may
it.
not be watching
Anyways,
right now, but he will.
this is Val and Tracy with Movies That Make Us, and we are continuing our action movie month of July. And we are talking about action movies, but we do also have just some regular movie news. And because Jake's not here, we get to run amok. I have to say, Tracy, I went and visited our good friend Jeff at Megaplex Theaters today, and he gave me a take-home popcorn that you can, order it and then take it home, like put the lid on it and everything. So he sent me home with that.
Yeah.
And we were going over the movies that are there. If you have not seen Jaws in theaters, which is like this whole thing came about of summer blockbusters, it was an accident by Jaws. But if you want to see Jaws in theaters, you can go see Jaws. You can see Jurassic Park. You can visit Wakanda.
Yeah. Empire Strikes Back was the #1 movie in the nation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really weird time right now. But Black Panther, if you want to see that, if you want to see Empire, if you want to see Jaws, if you want to see Jurassic Park, if you want to see Lord of the Rings, you can go see all these movies in the theater now. And, we were kind of talking about, maybe having Jeff on to talk about the difference between the movie experience and the streaming and kind of like the butting heads of that right now and what's going on.
Right.
So hopefully we'll be able to have Jeff on in the future. Thank you, Jeff, for the popcorn. That was awesome. We're going to be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy today.
Talk about shenanigans.
Yeah, shenanigans. But Tracy, I have some good news for you because I got a screenings email today.
Yeah.
And guess what was on my screenings email? Opening nationwide on Friday, August 12th is Tenet.
I'm very excited.
Antebellum is going to be August 21st. Sound of Metal is going to be August 14th. Wonder Woman 1984 is going to be October 2nd.
Another one I'm excited for.
Yeah, and there's a whole list of things, and I can actually sign up for screenings, not just links, which is really, really cool. But I am going to be screening the new Amazon movie called Chemical Hearts coming up as well pretty soon, and Boys in the Wood. So those are a couple movies that is
that an Amazon one as well?
Yes, that is Amazon as well. So if those are worth talking about, we will talk about them. Have you watched or streamed anything really cool lately? That's worth mentioning?
I've been doing, I did Hamilton. Hamilton over the 4th. My first time seeing it.
I have to tell you,
please.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to put a link on our page of a voice actor who did the first 75 minutes of Hamilton as every Muppet's voice. Kermit the Frog as Hamilton. You're either going to love it or hate it. I absolutely love it. I will post it on our page. He had some recording equipment. He's got a fantastic voice, and he can do all of these. Yeah, it's so great. I'll post it on right after this is over. I'll post it on our Facebook page. But I thought of all people, you're like me with the Muppets, so you would totally love it.
Oh, anything with Muppets, I'm in.
But you said you saw Hamilton for I've watched it 20 times now.
I had heard a couple of the songs. I hadn't seen it. Story. I'd never seen it. I had only heard a couple of the songs, and I loved it. I thought it was absolutely amazing.
I love
I mean,
Burr. He's my favorite. He's my favorite
oh my
voice, my favorite
gosh.
character. And there are so many really good actors in that show. But I've
Mhm.
watched it so many times and listened to the soundtrack now because I'd never seen it. I'd only heard a couple of songs that like Common does Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story. He redoes that song, but it's not
Right.
like what you
The
see
original.
in the musical. It's very different. And so I was waiting, and it's of course at the end. But I absolutely loved it. And I know there's controversy about it right now, but we're talking about it. And you know what I did the first 2 days that I watched it? I spent those 2 days also on
Learn.
the internet looking up and learning all these things. My daughter literally thought that Hamilton was a fictional character that was just that was created for this musical because she's like, "Oh,
Really?
I didn't know he was real." They never learned about him in school. And so we
Whoa.
had such a good conversation and like going through like all the things that he had done and what he'd contributed and what all of the characters, I say characters, but all of the people that
Historical
surrounded
figures.
him in our history, yeah. So it was a good couple of days of chatting because she had never learned about him in school. And that just proves my point again of like, you've got to
Mhm.
go beyond school and beyond those books to
Oh,
learn.
totally. Well,
But
and we've talked before in previous episodes about how history seems to be taught by bullet point. It's battle,
yeah,
battle, battle, treaty, 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 and it's just high level dates and numbers that you've got to memorize and
yeah,
then spit back out on the page versus telling the actual story behind these things. I did watch
yeah.
a really interesting documentary on the History Channel on Washington, and it covers a lot of the same stuff. But and
Yes.
I found this was so interesting. When Jefferson and Hamilton are having their cabinet battle, I think it's cabinet battle 1, and Jefferson says something about, you think we got upset about the tea, wait until you try and tax our whiskey. Hamilton
Yes.
actually did. He actually did a law to raise taxes on whiskey, and people freaked out for a couple of years about it. And I'm
Well,
like, it's
yeah.
a throwaway line in this rap battle, but I'm like, oh, it's so good.
Well,
Lyrically, it's
and
amazing.
it's not a documentary. Like, don't watch
No.
Hamilton and be like, that, not all of that. It's not a documentary. It's entertainment that
Mhm.
hopefully, again, like some of these movies that we've watched, will then spark you to go and learn about things.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so I wanted to mention that. And I watched the new Tom Hanks movie on Apple TV, The
I haven't
Greyhound.
yet. How is it?
Based on, you know what, I give it a solid B.
Okay.
There are some characters aren't super strong, but I do think that the story is good, action good. He's one also that wrote and starred in the movie, and he was like,
Right.
this deserves to be in a theater, but what else are we going to do right now? And so they put it on Apple TV. I also watched the
Didn't he
new
direct
Charlize
that?
Theron. Yeah, I think he did a lot, almost
I think
everything
I
in that
think
movie.
this is his directorial debut, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I know he starred in it and he helped write it. So if he directed it as well. Tom Hanks. So if you haven't seen that,
Mhm.
it's on Apple TV. Solid B. I also watched the new Charlize
Old Guard.
Theron, Old Guard. A really good conversation for about an hour after that movie with my boyfriend on what would we do if we were immortal. Like,
Hmm.
and because she talks about in this movie, like, has she wasted all of this time by not fighting the right fights? And so we talked like, how do you know what fight is there's a lot of stuff going on right now.
Oh,
So
yeah.
100 years
Mhm.
from now, what will we look back and say, like, I can't believe they let that happen. We're in it right now.
Right.
So we can't really
Well,
tell what the biggest thing is, especially right now.
we often say, how would we have reacted if we had lived in World War II during the Civil War?
Right.
Or we're
Yeah.
living in
Well,
one
and
of
he's
those
like,
time periods right now.
yeah, my boyfriend's like, well, if I was around back then, I would have, gotten rid of everyone that was into slavery. I said, but when you're in it, you don't see that that's the biggest thing that you need to fight for. We see that
Right.
now. So yeah, it was a really good conversation.
Right.
So if you want a
Cool.
conversation piece, it's a really good action packed movie, but you're going to see bloody things. Like they show shots, and it's battle. It's an action-packed movie. I give it a B-. But we had some good conversations after that. And then today I started streaming the new Zac Efron.
Oh yeah,
he's
I
got
saw
a
that
new
on the
reality
Netflix.
show.
Yeah,
And
about
my
sustainable
favorite, it was
living.
like, yes. So I think my favorite episode is episode 4. And all I'm going to tell you is that I'm sitting at the counter and my daughter's sitting at the table doing an art project. And he said, "Is that a giant fart bag?" There is, my favorite part of my day today was them talking about a sustainable fart bag. Zac Efron and a sustainable fart bag. So there you go. That's all the streaming
they could make those sustainable. Technology, man.
There's 2 really big ones. So if you want to see 2 of the biggest fart bags you've ever seen, and no, I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about actual fart bags that then create sustainable heat that does not smell like farts, then you want to go watch the show. It's really fun.
Fart bag may be my new non-curse word.
Yeah.
Oh,
do you think Jake would be okay with that?
I think Jake would be okay with fart bag. Yeah.
I think
how many times can we say fart bag?
Can we teach it to his kids?
They could sign it. I wonder what that would look like. But we won't
tell him. I will start signing, like, I'm friends with one of his kids on Facebook. I'm going to start like messaging him to sneak fart bag to the other kids.
Out, how to sign that. I want to know what the sign for fart is.
Oh my gosh. I will figure that out. Sammy might know, but she's not here right now. So, okay. So
yes.
Anything else you want to share before we jump into Guardians of the Galaxy?
I started the Epstein documentary on Netflix.
It's hard, right? It's difficult to watch.
Jeez. And so I had to have a palate cleanser and watch the Patton Oswalt special again. The I Love Everyone episode or special.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That special is so great. It's a good palate cleanser. But yeah, that Epstein documentary, that's a hard one to watch. I get so angry every time I watched it, because I was going to watch it again the other day, because I feel like the first time I watched it, I was so angry and so emotional that I was missing things, because you're just trying to take everything in. I just couldn't believe all of this information that's coming at me and how long it took. Right. And how long it's still taking.
How many people were involved?
And then how it was under all these people's noses that didn't, you know what I mean? Like in planes with celebrities that I respect, and they just thought this person was donating money to a charity, and that's how he was falling under the guise of he's a good guy.
Right.
And now these people are implicated in all these rumors, but really they thought they were involved with the charity. Like, yeah. So it's just disgusting.
Oh man, that one's rough, but it's good.
Yeah. But good choice in the palate cleanser.
So I'm like, I need something, man. I need to go to Denny's. And if you
need to go to
special,
Denny's.
You understand.
Go watch Patton Oswalt.
Pop out of a Denny's.
You don't pop in and pop out.
One other thing I was going to say, I'm very interested. So we talked when we discussed Parasite, we talked about how they're making an HBO TV series around the show. Well, I finished up season 1 of Snowpiercer, which is another one of Bong Joon-ho's films. And I got to tell you, the series was pretty awful.
I know a lot of people liked the movie. I thought the movie was okay. So I didn't even try to watch. I didn't even try and watch the series because I was like, meh.
Yeah.
So it's just okay.
The series is really bad. I mean, it had lots of potential, and it's interesting. I read, because they have a major kind of a cliffhanger that I won't get into spoilers on. But Sean Bean is going to be joining the cast next season. And evidently they had already filmed pretty much all of season 2 before season 1 even came out. So they were able to be like, coming next season, which we don't see anymore really.
Yeah.
So,
I want to throw a couple things out. I want to do a little shout out to Patrick Beatty and Gaggle of Geeks.
mhm.
So he threw me a little curveball. He messaged me the other day, like 2 hours before his show, because I guess one of our buddies, Rick Bonaducci, could not be on the show. So he's like, "Can you fill in for him?" And I'm like, "Oh, sure. What are we talking about?" And he's like, "Well, we're talking about Bond, James Bond versus oh my gosh, I just went blank. Tom Cruise. What's Tom Cruise's show?
Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible. Again, my brain just went. So no
You're good.
big deal. Just James Bond versus Mission Impossible. Like, sure. Like, but it was a really good. It was tomorrow
Did I
night.
lose?
Am I here? Can you hear me?
There we
Are
go.
you here? Hello?
We lost you for a second, but you're back.
Oh, tomorrow night is my big night
Yeah.
where I get to go up against
Steve Kondrick.
Steve Kondrick, who I have never met but intimidates me.
Super nice
and
guy.
The movie that I had to recast is Independence Day. And I'm going to tell you, Tracy, right now, I did not go safely into the night with my casting of this
That's my
movie.
girl.
Everyone's been saying that they're afraid of me. And so I feel like it's just like all this pumped up gas. And I'm like, that's how you like totally tank a movie, is when you give it too much like momentum and then everybody's all hyped about it.
Yep. Jake just said he should be intimidated by you.
Well, I got to tell you, everybody's either going to really respect my cast or you're going to be like, what? Because I did not go the safe route at all.
I'm very interested.
You guys actually picked one of my picks right off the bat because you know me so well. And if you watch the show and listen to the podcast, like, you should already know who I'm replacing Will Smith with. I'm not going to say it, but tune in tomorrow. We'll post a link here as well and see if you could guess any of my recasts. I mean, you guys know me pretty well. But I didn't. There's some twists and turns, and again, he's either really going to respect it or it's just not going to be. Well, everybody's just going to be weirded out by it. But I feel good about it. I think the movie would sell.
Is he got a panel of judges. It's not just Craig picking these. He has like a panel. So yeah, I'm excited. Since we know Jake is watching, do we want to check on permission to use the term fart bag?
Fart bag. That's our new word, Jake. I mean, you're not here, so I kind of think we have permission.
I'm going to allow it. I'm going to absolutely let that one go.
I don't
Jeffrey
think
Epstein was a real fart bag.
He was like the biggest, juiciest, wet fart bag ever. I think we got him to take his glasses off.
I was just going to say that.
So if you're listening to this podcast, he's commenting live, and Jake just said, "I have no words," which means he just took his glasses off, he cleaned them, and then he put them back on.
High five. Virtual high five.
Jake picked an all MMU final for Cast Off.
That would be fun.
Yeah, which means Jake
on separate sides of the bracket.
Yeah.
So that is possible.
If Tracy and I make it to the end, we would be against each other. So that would be an interesting. That'd be an interesting show. So
that'd be fun.
I mean, I'd be scared too because you are so thoughtful with your picks. Like I feel like I'm thoughtful, but I feel like you're super thoughtful.
I overthink it sometimes. I mean, the Ghostbusters one, I barely eked out a win.
I had mine picked within an hour of when he announced what the movie was. And I only waited to send it. I waited to send it to him on Friday just because I had 2 names in one of the female character slots.
Okay.
And I sat and looked at him until Friday. I went with my first guess, and then I just sent it so that I would stop and not want to change anything. So my 10-year-old loves fart bag. It might be his new favorite. There we go, Tracy. We did it. That's what Jake just said. We want to learn how to say fart bag in sign language because it's our new slogan.
We should change the name of this whole series. Move to make us forget it. We're fart bag.
Jake, let your kids watch the new Zac Efron show on Netflix and go to episode 4 where they talk about sustainable poop, basically, and fart bags.
And Efron, he got some bulk on him.
Well, you saw him in Baywatch, right? Like he was going head to head with The Rock.
Yeah. I'm impressed.
Now that he's lost 32, some of it for, I don't feel creepy saying that he's hot. Now that he's 32. When he was in High School Musical and I worked for Disney and I was teaching his dances to like 10 and 11.
Nope.
Weird. He's 32 and out of that, he's a freaking babe. Okay. I would learn how to use a sustainable fart bag for Zac Efron. I would learn how to use it.
I think that's a fair statement.
All right, should we get into
Should we talk about the subject on hand? Jake, this is what happens when you leave us unattended.
Okay, so we are talking this is our second week of our action movie July month, and we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, we all know, if you listen, that I am not a big fan of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I'm actually not even a really huge fan of Chris Pratt, but when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, I was blown away. I don't know how you could have gone into the theater and watched Guardians on the big screen for the first time and not just been like, whoa, like it was so much brain candy and so many things going on that I went and saw it. I went to both screenings. I went to like the critic screening and then the next free screening. And then I'm pretty sure I went and paid for it that weekend because there are so many things happening in this movie.
Yeah, this one, I really liked Chris Pratt from Parks and Rec. Really enjoyed him.
I still haven't watched
that. Well, it's funny because in that series, he plays this kind of lovable doofus, but he's pretty overweight. And he made a joke going on some of the talk shows when he was promoting this film, and the clip that they would almost always show was him in the decontamination shower with his shirt off, and he was laughing, and because he was married to Anna Faris at the time, and he told her, he said, "Now, I don't look like this all the time," and he said she made the deal where she married me before I looked like this. He's like, she knows what I normally look like. And he's like, in fact, and this was, I think he was on Seth Meyers' show. I'm pretty sure it was Seth Meyers. And he said something to the effect of, this is my last press spot that I have to do. I've got a couple of months before my next movie. So on the way home, I'm getting a 12-pack of beer and a dozen donuts. And honey, daddy, I'm coming home. And it just cracked me up. So I was already a Chris Pratt fan, but I was not really a James Gunn fan. I'm not a big fan of a lot of James Gunn fan.
But I didn't really know who Chris Pratt was. Like
Slither.
Small things.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like, I didn't dislike him, but he was not like a must-go director for me. But at that point in 2004, when this came out, very much so, and he and his filmmaking have matured and evolved over the years as well. I mean, he'll still do like weird, silly stuff, but there's a reason for it now. Whereas before it felt like he was just kind of doing it because he could.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I'm not a huge like fan. Like I couldn't watch Slither over and over, but what I like about his films again is that he takes chances. It's not the same movie over and over. And with Guardians, because he's coming into this big franchise of Thor and Iron Man and Captain America and all of these things. Hulk.
But I mean, in terms of those movies were all kind of the same type of film.
Well, I mean, but I mean, when Iron Man came on, the elevation of action and all of these gadgets and the showmanship of film. You know what I mean? Like this just very showy showmanship action movie. You know, he had a lot to live up to, and he could have either just followed that formula, and there is a formula because it is Marvel, it is Disney, but he did make it very much his own. It's a little bit darker than the rest of the film, the rest of the other movies, both in coloring of the film, but also just the way he portrays his characters in this film. It still is flashy. There's still a lot of gadgets. It's very action packed, but he also, if you notice in Iron Man and in Captain America, the first movie, all of the camera angles are very much up here.
Right.
And when you get to Guardians, they're kind of down here and up here. Like so you can constantly feel like all the motion. Do you know what I mean? You feel like you're in a fight, but I also think that you also have a character that's all the way up here and a character that's all the way down here.
Right.
So like you have to think about that as well. So, you know, but it was just so incredibly fun to watch.
I love the fact it doesn't take itself too seriously. Like there's an irreverency to the Guardians that is just, it was so refreshing because, and to me, because we got Guardians, we got something like Thor Ragnarok. We never would have gotten that without a Guardians.
And Ragnarok is one of my favorites.
They started, the Marvel films were starting to kind of be very similar in a lot of ways. They were really, great movies.
Yeah.
But there was a chance that it was going to get stale and it was going to be the same thing over and over again. And Guardians came out and they're like, we can have cosmic outer space battles. It doesn't have to just be on Earth. We can have a talking raccoon and a tree. We can take chances on weird characters. We can have humor. All those things help blow this universe wide open.
Well, and I think he went back to the late 1990s with the movie by creating the soundtrack with as much thought as he did the film. He brought the soundtrack back to the movie realm, I feel, because we haven't had that for a while. Like maybe you have one song or two songs from a movie that get really big, but he brought the soundtrack back and he was very thoughtful about it. And he worked it into the movie. Like it is a part of the movie. And there was a time where the movie was number one and the soundtrack was number one at the same time. And then the soundtrack actually surpassed the movie. And it's all of these songs that our parents and grandparents were listening to. And now my kid is listening to it. And, just this timeless music. And that was so much fun to see that mixtape and to hear those songs again, but also to actually edit the movie with this music. Like it flows together like a big music video, but in the best way, Yeah.
I read an interview with him and he said he actually wrote the songs into the script before he even knew if he would have permission for it. So he said if they found out that they couldn't use a song, he would have to go back and rewrite the scene to try and find something else. Yeah, when you're talking about a big budget film like that, and Marvel at the time was big, not as big as they are now, of course.
Yeah.
Now pretty much everybody would be like, sure, you can have the rights. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But
yeah, but I mean, again, this movie could have really flopped because
big time.
These characters aren't well-known characters to
these are D-list characters.
90% of people. You know what I mean? Like we're like below Iron Man. Like Iron Man was not a A-list character that they brought to number. So they were again taking a huge gamble to say, okay, we're going to take all these misfits and we're going to hope that people react to them because it's ridiculous. Like, okay, here's our movie. We've got this raccoon. We've got this talking tree that says only one thing the whole movie, but in different inflections. And then we have this guy that's just a big pile of muscle is more stupid than the tree. Then we've got this half-blood. We've got this half-blood guy who's going to dance fight you. I mean, what are you talking about?
I wish I could have been there during the pitch meeting. Like, I want to be there for the pitch and see exactly how they sold this thing. And this was what was so great because DC, on the other hand, who was trying to build its own cinematic universe, was being so cautious on everything. And they were like, well, we don't want to get too weird. And Marvel's like, let's go nuts.
Get weird. Let's get weird and let's not put anybody super famous as the main characters. I mean, I think the most famous people are really unrecognizable because, yes, you have Chris Pratt, but he wasn't Chris Pratt at the time. You've got this little chubby guy from TV, and you're going to make him the hunky main guy of this movie. And then you have your two biggest voices, Bradley Cooper, your two biggest actors, Bradley Cooper and Vin Diesel, who usually sell a movie by just putting their face on a poster, and they're not even their faces. Like, nobody even knew Vin Diesel was that tree till way later. Like, regular people, we knew because we're nerds and we looked into it. But you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
I mean,
and at times I still have trouble thinking that that's Vin Diesel, even though I know it is. Because it doesn't sound anything like Vin Diesel.
I mean, Zoe, she just came off, some really good movies. But again, she was on
She wasn't a household name.
She hadn't held any, big. We were like, oh, we really like her because we saw her in this, and this, where she's the side character. So, it was a big gamble. I don't think people realize that now because we love all of these actors so much and we're nerds. But it's. Yeah, I always try and think about the pitch, and then you've got to put, actors in there, and then you're like, what? But I mean, Marvel, they put Robert Downey Jr. in the biggest part of the Marvel universe when he didn't really have a career at the time. He was doing all these weird side, like B movies and TV shows, and
he had recently
a lot on him.
Yeah, he had recently just finished up like all of his court appearances and jail time for his offenses with his drug offenses. So
you just got out of jail. What are you gonna do? I'm going.
Let's put you in a giant action movie.
I'm going to a Disney movie.
But thank heavens we've got people like Kevin Feige who have the long range vision to do this. And like I said, with DC,
his name wrong the whole time. Is it Kevin Feige or Kevin Feige?
I'm never sure. It's probably Feige now that you say that. I say Feige, but
have I been saying it wrong the whole time?
No, I think you're right. Take away my geek card. I know. But
no,
like
you know way more than I
do. But DC was keeping everything like so somber. They were deconstructing the hero. And Marvel was like, let's have some fun at the movies. You know, and they rubbed off. I don't think that without Guardians, you wouldn't have gotten Aquaman, which is silly, stupid fun. I rewatched that over the weekend.
Oh yeah, total brain candy.
It's not a good movie, but it's fun. It's entertaining.
Worst movie I've ever seen. I think it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonder Woman had a lot of the same, fun, humorous aspects. And I think part of it's because James Gunn and the team were able to pull it off with Guardians.
Yeah.
But it seems like it was so much longer ago than 94. Or was it not 94, 2004, excuse me.
Yeah, 2014.
2014 even. Jeez, only 6 years. Well, this year feels like 20 years, so.
Oh my gosh, every week feels like a freaking year.
Right. Just today, Monday, felt like an entire week.
Oh,
I was
today
like,
was
I've
great.
just got to make it to 5.
Everything.
I'm like, I've just got to get to 5 o'clock tonight. So,
can we talk about Rocket for a minute?
Please, yes.
I love Rocket so much. I think he is like an underestimated character of the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know people love him because he's a raccoon, right? He's a talking raccoon, and you love him because he's sarcastic and whatever. But like, he plays some very key parts in both this movie and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I love the fact that he's like this huge klepto of body parts.
I'm going to need that guy's leg.
Going back to the pitching, and then the raccoon, he's going to collect body parts through the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe of movies. He's going to start it in this one. Okay. Whatever you say, Portbag.
That
I'm just gonna slip it in there.
I didn't see it coming. That was a stealth fart bag. Totally did not see that coming.
Ninja fart bag.
But I gotta say, that whole escape from the prison is one of my favorite edited moments of that whole movie, and quite possibly in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, that whole sequence is just so well shot and edited, and it's hysterical. And then especially at the end where he's like, wow, you actually got it? He's like, I was just messing with you, you know? Well, I didn't expect you to actually get it.
You're not alone in that, because I mean, they based a whole ride on it at Disneyland, right? Is, you know, so I mean, I think that the choreography of not only like him, you know, getting the leg or whatever, but like the whole choreography of them getting out of there, and the shots on multi levels and you know multi planes, and it was, again, that's why I had to watch it so many times, because he has things going on in every pocket of the screen that are important to the story.
Right at the beginning of that sequence, when Rocket is talking about the plan and he says that he needs the power from the jail, and he stays at a wide angle, and we see the characters at the forefront talking about the plan, and you just see Groot slowly walking into the background and slowly reaching up and grabbing the power converter. And it's all just in one shot, and he's letting the gag play out visually without cutting away from it. It's fantastic, because it takes you a minute to realize what's going on. Right. Because you're drawn to the conversation. You're drawn to what's in the forefront of the screen in the foreground. And then in the background, you see, oh, wait, oh, hang on. And then it just all goes to pot.
It's the best gag. It's like it's the oldest gag in the book, where everybody's trying to get through the door and they're trying to figure out how they're going to get into this really locked place. And then one of the characters just opens the door, you know, like they're trying to come up with it. Like but it's the best. The way that he did that, it's just so much fun. Again, it's just a fun movie. It's all about the jokes. And I feel like those characters still bring all the jokes into the other movies, into the cinematic universe. And sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't, but I like how they keep it, like they stay their characters no matter what characters they're around.
Right. Yeah. And I love what you said. It's this little misfit corner of its own universe that somehow gets to play in the bigger sandbox.
Yeah. It's the island of misfit toys in the MCU.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. It's so much fun, though. I love the coloring of the film. Like, it's one of my favorites. Like the poster that's behind us. It's so very vivid and electric.
It is not afraid to play with color.
Yeah.
So the sequel's a fart bag. Well, just for a second.
This is the thing about the sequel, is that it had so many moments where it could have been a good movie to me, but I feel like it was almost two movies in one movie. Like, I feel like it was two stories. There were at least 3 times while watching Guardians 2 that I thought the movie was ending soon. I was like, oh, they're just going to wrap this up. And then it kept going, and I was just like, oh my gosh, why are you still going? I was getting super frustrated.
I have to love that film, if not for the fact that they have the whole conversation about don't push the button and duct tape. That sequence is so funny to me. I'll forgive a lot of the other flaws.
There are great parts of the film. There are parts that I really like, and then there are parts where I was just like, what is happening right now? I could have cut an hour out of that movie.
Yeah. Well, and it'll be interesting because so James Gunn gets fired from Disney because of some tweets that he had sent out years and years ago.
10 years.
And then Disney, after a lot of public pressure, relents and lets him back in. He's finishing up the Suicide Squad for DC. It's a part reboot, part remake. I'm very interested to know more about that one. He says it's his favorite script he's ever written. So he said he had more fun writing and directing this than anything.
He's taking a fart bag And he's trying to make something not farty with it.
That's exactly right. And heavens knows the DC needs that. They need to. They need something
over there right now. It's super stinky.
So he's finishing that film up, and then he's talked about how he'll come back and do Guardians 3, and he sees Guardians 3 as the finale for him in the Marvel universe. He said he doesn't want to overstay his welcome. He said he's always seen this as a trilogy. So this is kind of, and he said there could be other Guardians. It's kind of like the Avengers. You could have other people fill in these roles.
Yeah. Which I think is
for him and for these characters, he feels like it's kind of coming to an end.
I agree too. I feel like their story is told, and unless they invite some of their characters in or they go, I just don't see how it's going to be entertaining. It's not like I'm going to go see it. And I'm sure I'll laugh and do all the things. But right now I'm just kind of like, what else are you going to do? Because I feel like in Guardians 2, they dragged it out. All the characters, they're not growing. They're not becoming any different. Like the only one that is Gamora. And she's, you know, her and Rocket are the strongest characters that have really grown into something else. Everyone else just is kind of the same. And then you throw them into the Marvel universe and they seem like kindergartnners compared to everybody else, except for, again, Rocket and Gamora. So I think
now we have Gamora on the run right now.
Right.
After
so
Infinity War and Endgame.
So
and we've got
it'll
Thor.
Be interesting to see what they do.
We've got the new alpha male in Thor aboard.
Yeah.
So
I've just seen enough of their back and forth, like, I'm cooler. No, I'm cooler. No, I'm cooler. Okay, well, show me something else. Like your chest. I don't care.
So, by the way, this guy's name is Loki.
Hey, Loki.
He's the god of mischief, huh? Hi.
I like it.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Gunn does with this. I'm intrigued to see what he'll do with a third Guardians. But
I'm bored, so I just really need something good.
What's that?
I'm just bored. This is mine.
Oh, hi, bud.
This is Samson.
Hi, Samson.
He's my second Sam.
Hi, Sam.
I'm just really bored, so I need him to do something really different.
Well,
like take another risk. Now.
And we kind of talked about it at the very beginning. You know, there's so much that's streaming, and people are like, just go ahead and stream Wonder Woman 1984, stream Tenet. And it's like, okay, but you guys realize that the theaters are already hurting so bad right now. And if the studios release their stuff on streaming and production can't really take place hard and heavy right now, it's going to take even longer to get new material into the theater for you.
Well, but I also think that we're not ready for theaters to be dead yet. Like, who's ready for a movie theater to be dead? There are some movies, and I tell you, usually when I rate a movie, like some movies are made for the big screen, and some of them, they could have just gone, straight to DVD or now straight to streaming. And like some of these movies, they deserve, and we deserve as fans to see them on the big screen where they were meant to be seen.
Right.
And again, that's a whole different episode that we will get into with someone from the business. But
Guardians to me is one of those films. Guardian works better on a bigger screen.
For sure.
Some movies are just that way.
I wouldn't want to see it for the first time,
on your phone,
my TV. Well, I don't watch movies on my phone very often unless I'm at the gym, but never a first time movie on my phone.
Right.
I'm a little bit of a snob in some ways. First world problems, but
I totally get it. I'm with you.
I am a huge fan of the theater, both cinematic theater and musical theater and plays. Like there are some things that just
there's something about the communal experience.
Yeah, and being in a theater with other people experiencing that. And I know right now it's a difficult time because we need to be safe, but there are places that are putting in the precautions and they are being safe. You can go and see it if you feel like it's a good time for you. And if not, wait, because what I think is going to happen is once movies start, I mean, there are still some movies that are opening up at the theaters. Like this last weekend, there were some movies that opened up. Relic opened in the
Mm-hmm.
theaters this last weekend. But I think what's going to happen with these bigger movies, as more and more come into theaters, they're going to have longer runs because
Yes.
the Megaplex
Yes.
theater, and I don't know how it is at other theaters, but they only have 50 people in each theater. And some of these theaters are 250 to 500 seats, and they have a maximum of 50 people in the theater. So, in
Right.
order to make the revenue, but also to give people a chance to watch these films, I think the run of these films is going to be a lot longer. So, you'll have a chance to see these
Mhm.
movies in the theater. Are you
Well, so
ready to go?
often.
Are people ready to go to the theater? I've gone and I feel good going, but
Mhm. I haven't yet. I've debated on a couple, like you said, like seeing Jaws on the big screen would be great. Um, when I go, it'll probably be like the first showing of the day type of
yeah,
thing. I for sure want to see Tenet on the big screen.
yeah.
Nolan's films are made for the big screen. Hopefully, it'll be out on the 12th of August.
And you've already
I
said you
mean,
want to be my guest, so I'll take you.
I will take you up on that. But I mean, we were supposed to have a Black Widow movie already. That was supposed to have already been out. Um,
Mulan.
Mulan, yes, that was like right when COVID hit.
Yeah, I have the
That's right.
shirts like from the studio in my car because we were supposed to see it like in a week. Like we were a
That's
week
right.
away from seeing it.
That's right. Yeah.
It was so close.
So yeah, it's an interesting time. So like
Like,
I
are
said,
you
if I'm going to a theater, I feel like the Megaplex is going to be one of those that I would feel comfortable going to because I know the quality that they put into their work. Yeah.
I feel like I was watching a Mr. Bean movie today when I was there because I was standing back and watching and like talking to Jeff, but I was also watching what was happening as we were talking about things. And there was one
Uh-huh.
family that came in while I was there, and I got there probably around 2 o'clock. And one family came in to watch a movie, and they were going over to the drink stand because you can either have them give you a drink or you can go get your drinks yourself. But what
Okay.
happens is when you go and use one of the drink concessions that yourself, there's a guy standing over here. And as soon as they're done using it, he goes like this over there and he cleans it all up. And then he goes all the way back. And then I watch people go up and then I watch him go over and clean it all. I felt like I was watching a Mr. Bean movie. I was like, I could just sit here all day and watch
I
this
could just,
guy.
well, you've got your popcorn bucket.
But I mean, that's what they're doing. Like as
Right.
I was there for probably a half hour, 45 minutes, and they were just constantly cleaning everything, wiping everything down. And there was like almost nobody there, but
Mm-hmm.
they're still doing that. So I feel like a lot of places are like that. We all had masks on.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing is when you go on to buy your tickets, if you see a whole row gone, that doesn't mean that's a whole row of people. That could be just two people that bought tickets. They
And
mark
that
out the
road's
whole
out.
row. That row
Right.
is
Right.
out. And then there's only 50 people allowed, and they put rows between your row. Okay. And then
Right.
if that movie sells out, they have enough theaters going that they can roll that movie over to another theater so that people still have the opportunity to see that movie at that time.
Yeah.
Let's see what Noel says here. With California closing down movie theaters today, I don't see
Mm-hmm.
studios releasing tenant or tentpole movies
Temple.
anytime soon. It's not profitable for the studios for a big release. Yeah, it's
Yep.
I got the email today from the studios about the movies that I talked about at the beginning. And if you missed it, I can say it really quick. Tenant, August 12th. Annabellum on August 21st, Wonder Woman on October 2nd. So those are some of the movies that I got from the studio today for screenings or links. But again, like if there's a huge, number, uppage again in COVID, then they'll be pushing those
Right.
back. But and this is why I really want to have Jeff on from Megaplex because he was telling me that if California and New York, and he named a couple other big states, if they don't start cracking down, it's really going to take a toll on
Mm-hmm.
the movie industry, both making movies and movie theaters. And like, he has all this inside knowledge that he was telling me about, things that you don't even think about. So yeah, if we want to keep movie making alive, we need to really, I mean, if people dying isn't enough for you, but you want to see Tenet and you want to see Guardians 3, like,
wear a mask,
start doing what you're supposed to do. Wear a mask, wash your hands, stay at home,
social distance, right?
Like,
well, I mean,
whatever you do.
I got to applaud California, because that's not an easy decision to make. But I'm really impressed. I mean, like, you look at what is happening in Florida right now. It's Arizona. It's a nightmare.
I feel like Florida is burning to the ground. Like, they are making some really horrible decisions that is really hurting them. It's crazy right now.
And I got to tell you, I think, you saw Hong Kong Disney closed again today. Yep. Over like 500 cases in the whole country. Like, hey, we're closed.
Yeah.
Florida is on fire, and Walt Disney World's like, come on back.
Yeah, it's a little crazy for me right now to think about. So again,
and
go
as much as I love those big movies. Yeah, as much as I love those big movies, I'm with Noel. I mean, the studios have to make a profit, and they're not going to necessarily make it streaming. And then, like we said, Val, once you use up the library that you have, with production not really going on right now, there's nothing new to fill that pipeline.
And there are so many people in entertainment out of jobs right now.
Right.
Both theatrical movies, television shows, musical theater, all of it, because we need to take this seriously if we want our entertainment.
Yeah, I was going to say, watch the credits of a movie, and every single one of those people had a job, had a part in making that movie. Noel is one of them. Noel a lot of sound work and boom operator work on a lot of TV and film.
I should have checked up on Chris to see if he is still in London, just sitting in an apartment. Like, I wonder if they're shooting Jurassic World yet. Because
I don't know.
There was an article that came out that said it's not on hold. So I wonder what they're being. I should have checked in with Chris before we did this episode. I'll find out before our next episode.
That'd be great.
If there's any updates with him and see what they're doing with Jurassic World right now. But yeah,
I know the Matt Reeves Batman is filming right now in England, and the Lord of the Rings series and a couple others got the okay in New Zealand, because New Zealand basically had 0 cases.
New Zealand is doing great, and I hope they don't let anybody in to move there. I mean, I want to move there. New Zealand's my out plan. Like, if I ever need to leave this country, I'm moving to New Zealand. But at 100%. This point, they really shouldn't take anybody, because they're doing so well.
even before this happened, you could only move there if you could prove that you had a job. Like, they were not really taking people in.
They were paying people last year to move there to work because they needed more workers, but you had to fit a specific criteria.
Right.
Because I looked into it.
And now you wish you would have fit in one of those criterias.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see for sure. But we should go ahead and give Guardians a grade. We haven't done that yet.
I give it a solid B+ for me. It's not one that I'm like watching it over and over when I'm just kind of scanning through Disney Plus, where I'm like, what Marvel movie am I going to watch today? But I do think it's a solid film. It's so much fun. Let's see. I was going to bring this up here.
Yes. We have an article in Deadline last week says the new Jurassic World has resumed filming in London.
Yeah,
so hopefully our friend Chris is working.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that too. Well, I saw it 2 days ago on like the rumors of that it hasn't stopped. It stopped production, whatever. But so yeah, B+ for me, solid B+. Okay.
I'm going to go a little higher. I'm going to go A- for this one. I thought it was just such a refreshing breath of fresh air. I loved all the characters in it. I love the humor. I love the color. I love the scene, the sight gags that we already talked about. Not as big of a fan on part 2, but part 1, I very, very much enjoy. I'm going to go A- on that one.
All right. And next week, do you remember what we're talking about next week? Jake's usually in charge of remembering those things.
I know we've got Speed still to do this month, but I think it's at the end of the month. So
It's at the end of the month?
I can't remember what we're doing next week. It's
But I'm
either
sure
Speed
it's
or it's a
amazing.
surprise.
Okay. Either
It's no fart bag.
Speed or it is not going to be a fart bag. However, I think we got fart bag at least in 20 times during this episode. Jake will be back next week to maintain the composure here to make sure that we fall in line. Jake, we hope you had a good night with your family.
We love you, buddy.
I hope you're going to be saying fart bag as much as I want them to. Just listen to Auntie Val. Listen to Auntie Val.
She'll never lead the way. No,
we're not
says no Sharknado.
That's not technically an action movie. It's kind of a fart bag movie.
It is a fart bag movie, but it's an entertaining fart bag movie.
Yeah, we will talk Sharknado at least one time, I'm sure. But we hope you guys
we kind of have to at this point. Or you know what?
Yeah,
this is going to be like Ben Affleck or Matt Damon on Jimmy Kimmel. It's going to be we ran out of time. We didn't get to talk about Sharknado.
Just keep cutting you off every time you get excited about it.
Well,
please, if you are watching us tonight on Facebook, you can actually catch this episode over on on all the streaming, I believe tomorrow, and on our YouTube page tomorrow. We will be back next week with another movie. If you want to tell us how we're doing or maybe what movies we should talk about, you can find us on all the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can also email us at, what's our email again? Again, Jake usually
feedback at moviesthatmakeus.com.
There we go. I don't ever remember the important things. I just remember my
That's because
opinion.
Dad usually takes care of all that for us.
We won't see you
at
the movies. Bye.
I am Groot.